Hello everyone, in this video, today we are talking about 4 questions related to machine age and beyond. The Industrial Revolution had a huge impact on modern architecture by introducing new materials, construction techniques and design philosophies. Before this period, buildings were mostly made of traditional materials like wood, stone and brick. Architecture followed historical styles such as Gothic, Baroque and Neoclassical, which focused on decoration and craftsmanship. However, with the invention of new materials like iron, steel and glass, architectures changed dramatically. Buildings became taller, stronger and more functional, leading to the modern architectural styles we see today. One of the key changes brought by the Industrial Revolutions was the use of iron and steel in construction. In the past, buildings were limited in height and size because materials like stone and wood couldn't support very large structures. But with steel and iron, architecture could design skyscrapers, bridges, and large industrial buildings. This was the beginning of what is known as modern architecture. The Crystal Palace in London, built in 1851, was one of the first buildings to use a large amount of glass and iron, showing the possibilities of these new materials.
The Industrial Revolution also changed urban planning and the way cities developed. With the growth of factories and industries, cities expanded rapidly. New transportation systems, such as railway and cars, required new types of infrastructure, including large train stations, roads, and bridges. Skyscrapers became popular in cities like New York and Chicago, where land was limited and buildings needed to go taller instead of wider. The first steel-frame skyscraper, the Home Insurance Building in Chicago, was built in 1885, marking the beginning of modern high-rise construction. Another important effect of the Industrial Revolution was the use of prefabrication and mass production of architecture. Before, buildings were mostly handmade by craftsmen, but with new machines, parts of buildings could be made in factories and assembled on site. They made construction faster and cheaper, allowing for the creation of large housing projects, office buildings, and public structures. However, some people criticize this building for being repetitive and lacking uniqueness. In conclusion, the Industrial Revolution played a critical role in shaping modern architecture. Its introduced and new materials like iron, steel, and glass, which allow for taller and stronger buildings. It also changed the way architects thought about design, with some focusing on function and efficiency, while others believed in complexity and decoration. The Industrial Revolution also influenced city planning, transportation, and mass production of buildings. Today, modern architecture continues to be influenced by both the ideas of functionalism and desire for complexity and meaning in design.
The Industrial Revolution also changed how people thought about the purpose of architecture. Traditionally, buildings were designed to be beautiful and decorative, but modern architects started to focus on function and efficiency. The book Theory and Design in the First Machine Age explains that architects like Le Corbusier and Mies van der Rohe wanted to create buildings that reflected the machine age. They used simple geometric shapes, open space, and new construction methods to make buildings look modern and practical. They believed that buildings should be designed logically with a clear purpose instead of following old traditions. Le Corbusier, for example, promoted the idea that buildings should be like machines for living. He believed that houses and other buildings should be designed with the same efficiency as factories, making life easier for people. His famous Villa Savoy is an example of this idea. It has a simple white box shape supported by thin columns and includes a flat roof that can be used as a garden. This was very different from traditional houses, which had pitched roofs and decorative details. Le Corbusier's ideas influenced many modern architects, leading to the development of what is called the International style. However, not everyone agreed with this strict focus on function and simplicity. The book Complexity and Contradiction in Architecture argues that architecture should not only be functional, but also rich in meaning, history, and decoration. The author Robert Ventry criticized the idea that less is more, which was a famous saying of modern architects like Mies van der Rohe. Instead, Ventry suggests that architecture should include contradictions, decorations, and reference to historical styles. He believed that buildings should be interesting and complex rather than just simple and efficient.
Rainer Bonham, in his book Theory and Design in the First Machine Age, talks about how modern cities develop and how they are connected to technology. He says that the architecture of the 1920s wanted to represent the machine age, but it did not really keep up with new technology. Architects like Le Corbusier and Gropius did not fully use the new invention from industry. Instead, they made buildings that only looked like machines but did not really use machine technology. For example, in his book, Version Architecture, Le Corbusier admired the simple shapes of cars and ships, but this was only about appearance, not real technology. Over time, this way of thinking became a problem because technology kept changing fast. Bonham explains that in the 1930s, real technological process showed that the machine age was not just about simple shapes. New designs like the German Auto Union and Mercedes-Benz race cars or the Boeing 247 airplane were created with aerodynamics to improve speed and performance. These designs were not just about looking modern. They used science to work better. But modernist architects still design simple box-shaped buildings, not using new materials and engineering methods. Bonham gives the example of Buckminster Fuller's Dimension House, which was very different. It was made with light metal and had a smart design for services, making it a real example of technology in architecture. Bonham believes that modern cities were shaped more by economic and political events than by architects using technology. For example, in the 1930s, architecture in Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union changed to support political ideas, using big and traditional styles instead of modern ones. In the United States, skyscraper construction stopped because of the Great Depression, showing that money problems had more impact on cities than new technology. Bonham asks whether architects can really keep up with technology. If architects do not use new technology, cities will change without their control, and architecture may become less important. Bonham says that today's cities need to use automation, energy-saving designs, and flexible buildings. He thinks that the old modernist style is not enough anymore, and that architects need a new technology-focused way of designing buildings for the future.
Robert Ventry's architecture is based on complexity and contradiction. His ideas are different from modern architecture, which is simple and functional. Ventry thought modern buildings were too simple and not interesting. In his book, Complexity and Contradiction in Architecture, he said modern architects did not use complex and multidimensional spaces. According to Ventry, architecture is not only about function, it should be rich and layered. He did not agree with the idea that form follows function. He also criticized Mies van der Rohe's famous phrase, "less is more." Instead, Ventry said less is more because he liked decoration, detail, and complexity in architecture. Ventry believed that architecture should not be clear and pure all the time. A building can be both open and closed, both classical and modern, both symmetrical and asymmetrical. Modern architects use one form and one function, but Ventry thought this was boring. He wants architecture to have many meanings, to be flexible and layered. For Ventry, architecture should not be either or, but both and. Unclear and complex meanings make architecture more interesting. While modernism adhered strictly to specific rules, Ventry's approach advocates for a more flexible, ironic, and historical referential architecture. For instance, when analyzing Le Corbusier's Villa Savoye, he highlighted the ambiguity regarding whether whether the plan was truly a square. Venturi's ideas laid the foundation for postmodern architecture and sought to address the shortcomings of modernism.
Initially, economic issues were more inclined toward creating logical and function-focused buildings, rather than architecture centered on aesthetics and art. In response to this, economism, functionalism, and economy-focused principles emerged. International style architecture, influenced by technological developments, produced minimalist and simple forms. However, this sometimes led to loss of diversity. The best examples of this are Mies van der Rohe's German Pavilion, Le Corbusier's Villa Savoye, and even the Bauhaus building. Mies van der Rohe believed that industry and technology should merge with thought and cultural power, and he argued that there was a transitional period regarding the relationship between technology and architecture. Technology facilitates the construction of more complex and contradictory forms. For example, Le Corbusier's Villa Savoye has become an important building due to its visual playfulness, its reflection to 1920s imagery, and its focus on functionality. And it is an example of the both-and concept, which is versatile and does not serve a single criterion in terms of managing complexity and contradiction. Bauhaus, which reinterprets traditional art toward technology, aims to combine different disciplines such as art and industry. However, the architects of the Bauhaus movement overlooked diversity in architecture because they were too focused on technological developments. The placement of technological tools within architectural structures was approached differently by Le Corbusier and Fuller. While Le Corbusier believed that machines should be placed in appropriate rooms based on their functions, Fuller arranged the machines at a single point based on mechanical similarities. As can be understood from this, it is essential to adapt to technological innovations and balance architecture with technology. The presence of technology will often lead us to reinterpret architecture and expect us to produce innovative solutions. Fuller criticized the international style for being unable to keep up with technology and remaining superficial. In other words, while technological developments have a positive impact in terms of sustainability, strong spaces, material diversity, and smart building systems, they also have negative aspects such as homogenization, loss of identity, reduction in cultural and aesthetic diversity, and making spaces soulless. It can also be argued that an architect who wishes to keep up with technology shouldn't fear their own cultural identity. On the other hand, for architects who oppose innovation, the developing technology will continue its progress without needing them.